The Dogs. Well, they're adding some dogs. Zion and Zachariah Branch are leaving USC, headed to SEC country, and joining forces with Kirby Smart down in Athens. What does this mean for the Bulldogs offense and its defense? How can Zachariah Branch become the future #1 receiver? And what do we think of this move? Let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. And today we talk about a pair of Trojans turning into Bulldogs for 2025. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials. Link is in the description. Follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me and Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, college football season might be coming to an end, but college basketball season is only heating on up. And then college baseball season's right around the corner. And you got your favorite concert. You got your favorite comedian coming to town. You can go whatever you want to see whenever you use the GameTime app. Just say that the fine folks at SEC Unfiltered sent you and get $20 off by using the promo code SECU when you sign on up. Dave, I like this fit a lot. Let's just get this out of the way. Georgia, who, by the way, Kirby Smart, credit's due, dealing with the passing of his father, Sonny, this past week, still going out and trying to build an ad for 2025. They need a #1 receiver. They have the opportunity to get a #1 receiver. They need to add in some depth in the secondary for what they're going to lose in Malachi Starks. They added some depth in the secondary. This was always going to be a package deal. Whoever wanted Zion was going to get Zachariah. Sometimes you want to take that risk on a player that you don't know how he fits in to get the prize jewel. That is Zachariah coming to this offense, who can immediately be a plug-and-play addition in multiple different facets on however Mike Bobo or whoever the new offense coordinator, if they do go in a different direction, can properly utilize him next fall.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bear. We talked a little bit off air. I mean, I think you have to like this take from the situation of Georgia severely missed playmakers this past year. Some of it not their fault. I mean, two of their better receivers were not on the team because of off the field conditions. Now, yeah, you could blame Georgia to some extent, but for the most part, nothing happened on the football field. It was their fault, injury or anything like that. So I mean, I don't know anyone who couldn't be for the Zachariah Branch take from that perspective. And you mentioned, Bear, like Zion Branch, probably the little calf cow, as we used to call it in the recruiting world. You take the cow, you have to bring the calf with him a little bit. Like, it is what it is. Zion's played some, so it's not like you're some terrible, like you're taking some guy that's never played or anything. It is what it is. But the main point here, Georgia needed a receiver to step up, and they were missing that this year. Again, I think really the only guy in that room that improved, you probably make the case Arian Smith.
You could say Arian Smith, probably.
His rate improved some, and I guess give some credit to James Coley. And I think the last time James Coley was there, when he was the OC and just the wide receivers coach, that's when guys like Isaiah McKenzie started elevating a little bit. And that's kind of a little bit what Zachariah Branch reminds me of, a combo, a little bit of they were two best friends from American Heritage, so randomly enough. Sony Michel and Isaiah McKenzie. It's kind of the combo there. But again, I don't know how anybody could be against this. This is as good as you can get. Maybe you overpaid a little, but I mean, it is what it is. It was position of need. You're also getting some depth, like you mentioned, Bear, in the secondary.
The #4 player, according to 247 Sports, in the transfer portal, the #2 wide receiver available. And the thing that I love about him, Dave, is that you can utilize him in so many different facets. When you think of like Eric Singleton and how Auburn now plans to just get him involved in the offense, Swiss Army knife, let him line up a little bit at running back in the slot on the outside. He's going to do a bit of everything. He's going to add value, special teams. Exactly. Like, do you remember when Zachariah Branch came out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Bishop Gorman, and he was at USC in that San Jose State game? We had like 5 catches for 78 yards. He had a couple runs.
Was it a week 0 game, Bear? Wasn't that early?
And then it was the 78-yard punt return for a touchdown. Like, the guy was a human highlight reel. And that's the point of emphasis that we're looking at. He had a down year. I think that everybody can tell you right now, and I know that USC fans love to come at me in the comments for talking so highly of Zachariah Branch. He did not live up to expectations this past season. 47 catches after a year ago, finishing with like 78. Only 3 touchdowns on the year. I think he had less than 400 receiving yards. Really underwhelming performance. But then you got to remember, this is a guy that has nearly 2,000 all-purpose yards. He returned 2 kicks for touchdowns in 2023. If I'm getting the version of him that came on out as a freshman, that's a guy that can get me 800 receiving yards. That's a guy that can get me anywhere between 1,200 to 1,400 all-purpose yards. That's a guy that can find the end zone 6-7 times, maybe even 8 or 9 if you throw in the special teams value. And I got consistency. I don't have to worry about, do I have to worry about the drop radius a little bit? Yeah, because Zachariah Branch does have some drop issues, but at the same time, I'm getting a dude that I can trust. And if I have an offensive coordinator that just wants to get creative, wants to go into his bag of tricks, get into the element and say, listen, we got a speed threat. We got a dude that's going to take away the number one cornerback. It's going to open up our offense. So be it. Let's go ahead and record a drop a game if that means that we're going to get 4 catches for 78 yards and a tutty.
No, I agree with you, Barry. I think it's something you had to. Yeah, I don't want to say you missed on a couple of receivers, but I think it's fair you've missed a decent bit from the wide receiver spot. I mean, Cortez Hankton's been in and out. He's been at LSU. Brian McClendon has been in and out. Now you got James Coley. Just some continuity at that receiver spot, I think, has been a little bit like a consistent set of eyes to know what they need to go get. Again, I think Georgia's been a little slow to go pay people out of the portal. I think this year the offensive issues specifically, we're talking about the wide receiver position, were so glaring for the most part outside of Arian Smith at times that, yeah, man, I mean, whoever you were going to go deal with in the portal was going to have leverage over you because they knew how much you needed a big play threat across the field. And right now, I mean, Gunnar Stockton, we've seen one sample size of him, so we'll continue. I mean, I'm sure he's fired up. He has this help as well. I mean, potentially, like you mentioned, we were talking about it. Noah Thomas is in that mold as well. So they're adding some depth there. I mean, at the very least, you get a two-faced player, like you said, from a Zachariah standpoint of a special teams and receiver. And like you mentioned, you can move him all over the place.
Correction, it's 78 catches, 823 yards, 3 touchdowns during his tenure at USC. My apologies for not clarifying that better. Again, this was the team that led the country in drops last year. They had 36. You didn't have a legit number one receiver that you could confidently trust. Do you have that next year? It's all going to be based off of what happens with Colby Young's status. It's going to happen if you get an Arian Smith. I mean, you get a couple of other players to come on in. I've already heard rumors and speculation that Noah Thomas was going to be potentially added on. And here's the deal, Dave. They swung and missed at getting CJ Daniels. They swung and missed at getting Dane Key. They need to bring in just some veteran receiver that you knew when they walked into the building, they would act like they were the alpha. They would act like whoever is the starting quarterback in 2025, they know that he is going to be wide open and he is going to be building that relationship. That's what was needed. And then, of course, when you throw in Zion Branch, last season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, dealt with some season-ending injuries the last couple years, but he can be a good overall starting safety if need be. What's the position that you're going to be missing next year? Safety. You're losing Malachi Stark to the NFL draft. So you get a guy like like Zion, 19 career tackles, 3 pass breakups, 1 sack. It doesn't mean that you have to start him. What it means is that you have an opportunity to watch him grow and develop and maybe be there for 2 more years because he's got 2 more years of eligibility. If he ends up flourishing for your team, so be it. If he ends up being just a role player on special teams, if it matters by landing Zachariah, you take that player and you say, we'll find a home for your son.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he provides some kind of depth, man, I don't think he's coming in and replacing Malachi Starks, who, again, didn't even have as great of a year as he's had in the previous 2 years. But, yeah, I don't think that's the expectation. Again, I'm like you got 2 years left, like you mentioned, Bear. As long as he can be a winnable minus guy, we can start getting him. He can help us at least maybe late in the game, and you mentioned special teams value. Other than that, I think it would be icing on the cake, gravy all over your mashed potatoes if this dude could turn into an actually real contributor for you game to game.
The other thing is that you're going to have to get the ball into Zachariah Branch's hands immediately. No Arian Smith next year. You're losing Dominic Lovett. He's out of eligibility. The crazy part is that now you also know he is coming on in and is the bona fide number 1 punt returner because who just entered the transfer portal? Anthony Evans. So this is a guy that is going to do everything for you. Please make sure that you use him properly. Let's go ahead and grade the move, Dave, as you and I like to do whenever we go on these Elite All League, winnable plus, winnable minus. We don't have to worry about Jag. Break this down really fast for those who are just kind of tuning on in. This is a very interesting one. I think that we're on the same page for Zion, Zachariah. It could be a hit and miss. It could be we're right on the same page.
Yes, I mean, it's funny we're doing a Georgia play. This is Georgia's scale right now. If you watch in their building, this is what they would be grading on right now. Tweaked it a little bit from a Nick Saban, Bill Belichick critical factor, simplified it. But elite speaks for itself. I mean, these are Travis Hunter-type players, no-brainers. For the men out there, your wife could tell you these were ball-playing Jessies, as we used to say. All league, very similar. You're not going to have a lot of your players in this. This is the Walter Nolan kind of category perspective. Like really good players, not to that elite trait, just because a lot of that has to do with physical measurements, but all league right underneath that. Most of your team's not going to be in that. Most of your team's going to be in this winnable plus range right here. You're going to win because of these guys. If 6, 7 out of 10 guys, when they come on campus, and they're there for like a year or two, and like Kirby Smart grades the roster twice a year. They get their whole staff to grade it off this scale. If you're hitting 60, 70% of your guys as winnable plus players, you're going to win a lot of football games, and you're going to be in that championship realm. That's where Georgia's been. Winnable minus, don't just get discouraged with the minus. That just means you're a player that you can win with, but not because. You have to be surrounded by other players to help them get the job done. That can be really groups that are kind of by committee approach, offensive line, wide receiver, running back, et cetera, from that perspective. I'm going to go here for Zachariah Bear. I'm going to go – God, I'm stuck in the middle between all league winnable plus, if I'm being honest. Again, I'm not a big – there's only one dude I've ever loved, and I'm a big measurable guy. So I'm always a big – from an all-league standpoint, you're going to have to be a big X for me right now, and I think that's what Georgia's missing. So I'm going to go winnable plus. I'm going to go winnable plus here. You can win with him, but I think he's going to also have to – Gunnar Stockton's going to have to continue to develop. They have to surround him with some other weapons as well. I mean, Jalen Waddle may be the only guy I would put as an undersized receiver here that I would put in that elite range. I mean if it just me. But the measurements is there. So I'm going to go winnable plus for Zachariah, and then I already kind of said it there. I think for Zion, I'm just going to go winnable minus. Again, if anything extra outside of the expectation from a depth, special team standpoint, you'll take that and be fired up about it. So Zachariah, I'm going to go winnable plus. Zion Branch, I am going to go winnable minus.
I will go winnable minus for Zion. Here's the deal. He ends up having a role. That's awesome. If he ends up starting, that's even better. You know why you brought him on in. You brought him on in so that way Zachariah was the prize jewel of the crop. And I want to go all league, but I'm going to actually be a little bit patient on this one. I am the one that jumps the wagon well before I've given out an elite. I'm one of the only people that I know that would probably give out an elite. I will go winnable plus. And the only reason I say that is I want to see more production from him. I want to see more consistency from him, because if he's been a flash in the pan, when the flash is there, it is the spark plug that is igniting and turning on the engine to torque speed. It is everything that you want. And he could be a legit number one receiver. He could be a dude that can absolutely win at the point of attack. He can be fantastic on special teams. He could be an all SEC, all-purpose player. He could be an all-American, all-purpose player. He was a freshman all-American. Like, that's how talented of a player he is. But I just need to see it consistently on the radar. And I think the big reason why USC fans were very frustrated with him was we only heard about the flashes. We only heard about the potential, but the potential kind of had its limits. It kind of had its drawbridge. It kind of had its moments where, okay, when are we actually going to watch this hit? Because we're watching what Mekhi Lemon's doing. He's fantastic. We're watching what Jacoby Lane is doing. He's fantastic. We're watching what Kyron Hudson's doing and Deuce Robinson's doing on a consistent basis. Where is this Zachariah Branch superstar phenom? He is going to be the dude for Gunnar Stockton. He is going to be that guy. Or if they bring in another quarterback, he is going to be that dude to begin the year. But just because you're the dude to begin the year doesn't mean that you're the one that we're going to be talking about at the season's end. How many times we looked at this? Isaiah Bond at Texas is a perfect example. Everyone said he's going to Austin, watch him build that relationship with Quinn Ewers. And lo and behold, here is Matthew Golden leading the leading the conference and leading the Longhorns in touchdowns, leading the Longhorns in receiving yards, in receptions. He's now the number one playmaker. That might be a dude that's currently waiting to come on in. That may be somebody who we have not heard of yet. That might be a Noah Thomas if he does commit. So I'm not ready to go with, say, him being an all-league just yet. I think he has tremendous upside. And if the right offensive mind gets his hands on him and they properly utilize him, off to the races. Georgia once again is a favorite to go win the SEC championship. They're once again in the college football playoff. They're once again going to be one of the best teams in the sport. And they still probably are because it's Georgia. But I got to see it now. I got the flash in year one. Let's go ahead and pump the brakes just a little bit going into year two. I want to make sure that when he closes out in year three, everything and anything on the table has been accomplished. Until then, I go winnable plus.
Yeah, I think some things outside of Zachariah Branch's control have to work out for him to ultimately hit his ceiling of that all league for me as well.
But he can. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think that's the great part for Georgia is they got a player. They needed this type of player. They needed to get some type of versatility in the offense. Be creative. Watch how this is going to work. Because number one can easily be a number one force for your team. But let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think of Zachariah and Zion Branch leaving California and headed down to Athens, GA? They're going to be putting on a show in Sanford Stadium in 2025 At least we think so. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show, like, review, hit subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Make sure that you're following us on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Check out Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me and Mr. Cole Thompson, and all of our work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Dogs! You got some dogs. Trust me, you're going to like it. I won't do that voice again. Peace.